Hello, I'm the Irresolute Cartographer. This is the game Mad Max by Avalanche Studios, the same folks that have made the Just Cause games. This is a game that's a couple years old, but I just recently got around to playing it, and given that I beat it, I'm going to make a video about it and put it into a new series I'm going to make called the Charted series. You know, Charted, I'm the cartographer. Anyway, so with this series, I'm going to highlight games that I've beaten and hopefully give the folks out there who haven't even gotten an opportunity to touch the games a chance to see what the games are like and either to decide to go out and pick it up for themselves or really give them a reason just to not ever touch it. So, the reason folks might like this game, the reasons I like the game, is the car combat. Got very well developed car combat in this. If you've ever played Rage, that's probably the closest thing I'd say comes to this in terms of car combat, but this is the better of the two. Now, along with that, there's a vast open world here, and it's got, I mean, it's not horribly diverse locations. I mean, it's all dry, dusty wasteland, but right now, I'm driving around on an old, yeah, this is an old seabed. This is the Great White. And up there is the Dead Baron, and there's another area called the what is that called? Let's take a look at the map real quick. May as well. The Great White, the old seabed, the Dead Barrens. That's the land where it's kind of badlands now, and the Dunes region. Then there's also the Dump, which is right around Gastown, the main location of the game's primary antagonist, which is Scabrous Scrotus. Now, you get to see the first confrontation between Max and Scabrous in the first couple minutes of the game, where it's just really a cutscene. And in that cutscene, Max actually shoves a chainsaw into Scabrous Scrotus' head. Somehow, Scabrous manages to survive that, throws Max off, steals his car, and Max ends up wandering the wasteland. Now, he ends up coming across this gentleman who's in the back of the vehicle here, a guy by the name of Chumbucket. I was about to call him Hunchback. Sorry about that. Now, Chumbucket is what's called a Blackfinger. He's a mechanic, and he's actually a very unique character, even for this world. He worships what he calls the Angel of Combustion, and he believes that Max is the saint of his faith. This vehicle was the vehicle he was working on when Max first found him. It's called the Magnum Opus. Now you can customize the Opus in pretty much, in quite a few different ways. In fact, it's one of the more detailed customization systems I've seen. And let me see if I can give you a view of that. Actually, yeah, garage. Okay. So this is just the general view of the Magnum Opus, and you can see here all the different customization options that you get. Now, some of them have trade-offs. Some of them are just linearly scaling improvements. The ramming grille, armor, engine, exhaust, and tires all have trade-offs. And you could even say, to an extent, the side burners also have a trade-off as well. Now, the ramming grille, obviously, it incorporates a smaller or larger grille on the front of the vehicle. Anything up to that, from nothing at all. I typically like to keep the ramming grille fairly light because I don't do that many ramming attacks, because they also do damage your own car in the process. Now, I mean, the more heavy the grille, obviously the more damage it's going to do, the more it's also going to reduce the damage, like it shows you up there. But it also has the weight, and there comes the trade-off. You can see on the right here all the stats. When you have no grill on there, the attack goes way down, but your acceleration handlings are severely improved from when you got this thing on here. So I like to have something on there, but I don't like to have this ridiculously heavy one that slows everything down. Now, in terms of armor, it's the same sort of trade-off. Weight versus protection. This one severely slows you down, whereas this one doesn't slow you down at all, but I like to have some armor on here, and I decided to pick this one as the one that had the best trade-off. Now, the engine. There's a V6 and a V8. You don't get the V8 until far into the game. And as you improve the engines, you get better acceleration, but you also have reduced handling. The exhaust just improves your overall speed, which I feel like yeah, I mistakenly said that this one is a trade-off. This one is just one of the linear scaling ones. Now, the tires do have a trade-off. You start off with default ones right there, and then you get +5, +15 on asphalt, +15 overall, and then there are ones that improve your traction on sand, and again, another one that improves your traction on asphalt. I typically stick with this overall tire traction one because you do constantly shift between sand and road, and unless I'm driving around in the dunes area, I don't typically equip these ones, and I've never really found a reason to equip the asphalt traction ones. I mean, you could probably use them in races, but at the same time, you're also still crossing sand. Suspension is one of the linear scaling ones, just improves your handling. The boost also just improves over time. The rims improve the amount of damage you do when you're grinding alongside another car. Border spikes keep the other vehicles from having their occupants throw themselves onto your vehicle and try to start shooting you and stabbing you. There's a sniper rifle that you can use for taking out snipers and war criers and things like that. There's a harpoon that you can use to pull off tires at the higher level, and you can also just use it to pull down large structures and things like that. The Thunderpoon is basically a rocket-propelled grenade. The side burners shoot flames out the side, but this is one of the ones that has a trade-off. The lower the quality, the less gas it uses, which is an obvious sort of thing. The wider the width of the flame, obviously you're going to be burning more gas, and side burners do go through it pretty quickly. Excuse me. Repair speed. Now, this is an upgrade that you don't really get until pretty late in the game, and that's unfortunate, really, because it is a severe help, really. And there are many times in the game where I would be having to sit there by the side of the road for 30 seconds or so waiting for him to fix the car, which obviously in real life would be ridiculously fast, but at the same time, when you're trying to chase down a convoy that's speeding away, having to wait for your car to get repaired, and then you start going after them again, and you find that all the damage that was done to that convoy has been repaired, all the vehicles you destroyed have regenerated. It's a pain. Car body, you can just change the shape to the car body here. It doesn't actually change anything other than the overall appearance of it. Then there's the body color. There only seems to be one of these body colors that actually provides any sort of benefit aside from just the basic aesthetics, which is this one, which improves your fire resistance by 50%. The rest of them, there seems to be no real benefit to them other than like if you want to drive around in a car that says, please rob me. Anyway, let's see. Decals, purely aesthetic. And then hood ornaments, which if you watch the stats over here as I scroll through these, you can see that they will sometimes improve attack, defense, top speed, and acceleration. And you can apply one to the front and one to the back. Alright, so Max you can also customize, and you can give him better knuckles here. These ones, I mean, you can see them. They look like they would hurt to get hit by. Also, I've currently got him equipped in his classic leather jacket. But you start off like that. Well, actually, like... Weird. Purchase and use. Oh, I guess I've never used that before. But yeah, you start off like that. And over time, he starts to actually look like a soldier. And then it goes back to... Once you finish the game, you get the classic black leather jacket. Wrist armor, I mean, obviously it just improves your parry right there. The ammo belt gives you the ability to carry more shotgun shells and shivs. Shivs you use for executions in combat. Let's see. For the head options, you can just change what he looks like here. So, the shotgun improves actually just increases the capacity of the shells. Skills. This is where you get all your little executions and charges and finishes and things like that. And tools. Binoculars, canteen, a crowbar, a flashlight, pliers for defusing landmines, and a flare gun that you can use to call Chumbucket over to bring you the car when you've been separated from him. Now there's a series of things in here for bios of all these different characters and enemies and locations, and there's a thing on collectibles. Now this is one of the beefs I got with the game right here. It says that I've only got 96% of the historical relics, but if I were to open up the map here, there are no other scavengeable sites on the map. None. Another problem with the map, I have no idea why this icon is like this. This is a death run, meaning it should have an icon just like this. I've defeated all the races here, and yet I'm still not able to fast travel there, despite the fact I'm able to fast travel to any one of these other ones, along with these balloons, which effectively are like the radio towers in Far Cry, the steeples in Assassin's Creed, or the giant robotic brontosaurus from Horizon Zero Dawn. But again, I'm not able to travel to that one for some reason. I don't know why, and it's just a strange thing down there. Let's see. Oh yeah, and then another interesting thing about this is, and I understand why they do it, but when you clear an area of all the threats that Scabrous, Scrotus, and Stank Gum have left around, all these different camps that are showing up here with the check marks, when you disable all those, when you destroy all the scarecrows, which are these metal totems covered in dead bodies with a torch on top, when you destroy all those, and when you destroy the convoys, which their paths are marked with these green lines here, and you defuse all the minefields, well, his forces are supposed to stop patrolling the area, but they don't. So I'm not really sure why it tells you that they're no longer patrolling the area, because like you've seen, I still have his minions attacking me, which is understandable from a gameplay perspective. I mean, you don't really want to remove the only enemies from the game, which are now the patrolling ones, because otherwise, other than the races, there's no real gameplay left in this once you finish it. Now, so back to the reasons I like the game. I kind of got sidetracked there. I like the Arkham style combat, but I know it's fairly simplistic, and if you've played the Arkham games and if you've played Shadow of Mordor, then you'll be familiar with it, and maybe you'll be a bit tired of it, so you may not like it. So just to recap the other things, the car combat, the fact that it's an open world game, the Batman Arkham style melee combat, and I like the aesthetics of it. The world is beautiful in its own way. You know, it's this destroyed, horrible looking wasteland, but it's also beautiful. And there's nothing like this really on Earth, you know, in our time, and it's very interesting looking. So, so in terms of the story for the game, I like the story, but I did feel that it was a bit too much of a too much on the side of bittersweet for me for the ending. I'm not going to give anything away here. I try to avoid spoilers with this sort of thing, so that if you do end up wanting to go pick it up, you can get a feeling of it. You can just get a feeling of it from this video, and you can actually get the full thing from playing it rather than having it spoiled for you. I do think Scabrous, Scrotus, and Stank Gum are effective antagonists in this. And it's actually interesting, they cheat against you multiple times through the game, and it's actually a story element. They're not just cheating by, you know, having extra health added or something like that, but it's actually part of the story. So in terms of problems with the game that I've gone over a couple of those already. I mean, there are a few too many side activities here, and some of them I don't really feel add things, and they also kind of are similar from the rest of the content, like taking down convoys. That makes sense. Those convoys are carrying fuel back to Gastown. So, and they're Scrotus's forces directly, so it makes sense, you know. There are snipers, totems, both of those things set up by Scrotus in order to defend his territory or to show off his might. The camps with the oil wells, transfer tanks, and his little mini-bosses, all that stuff makes sense. But the minefield, for example, it's a It's part of the game that doesn't really feel like it fits, to be honest to me. And it requires you to drive around in a buggy rather than the Magnum Opus. The buggy has no boost, it has no weapons on it. All it's got is the dog in the back. The dog can I guess, maybe hear the mines somehow if they're giving off a frequency, or smell them somehow. I don't know. Anyway, the dog detects them. You got to go dig them up and defuse them. Well, it doesn't really seem to fit all that well into the overall feel of the game there. And oh, that's a car that has a bomb inside of it. It's a suicide car. Whoa! Didn't even mean to take that jump. Okay. Well. Anyway, so other things. I have already talked about the bug with the scrap system where it's not showing me where this last piece of scrap is that I'm supposed to go get, or last collectible I'm supposed to go get. The hand-to-hand combat gets pretty repetitive eventually, and it's something where I enjoyed it when I first came into it, and it's something that I still do get a little bit of happiness out of, but at the same time, when you're playing the game over the period of 3 or 4 hours, you'll end up fighting, I don't even know, like 100 different guys. And you'll be engaged in that same exact combat, same blocking. Oh, jeez. Same blocking, dodging, and all that kind of stuff. Alright, that's getting old. Let's take care of that. There we go. Okay. So, now with the side activities, of course, I did complete them. I'm one of those completionist sorts of people where it actually does bother me when things aren't done, which is one of the reasons why this whole bug with the scrap system is bothering me as much as it is, because I can't complete that and I don't know where that thing is. Now, the other annoying thing, I guess I listed it before, the slowing down at the end of every single fist fight, where it's like, you know, the first few times it's great, it's a nice little effect, but eventually when you're trying to clear a base out and you gotta wait those 3 or 4 seconds at the end of every fight for your guy to stop moving, and then also I always end up inadvertently throwing an extra punch, so it's this another really slow motion punch that he's doing. It's just kind of a pain. Oh yeah, the mini bosses are identical, other than the basically their skin color. Well, not really skin color. They each have like a different coat of paint on them, basically, which ends up being the coats of paint I showed you before in the vehicle customization system. So they fight you with the same style of fighting. It gets repetitive, and again, there's no real difference other than the way they look. So I guess that's really most of my main issues. I mean, there's another one. It's a stupid little thing because it actually does make sense with the story, but every single game I've played with cars in it before, I always get in on this side being an American, and nope, it's an Australian car, so you gotta get into the other side or he's gonna have to slide over. So yeah, the main characters here, and I've already talked about Chumbucket back there. He's one of the more interesting characters in the game, I think. He originally started off over there in Gastown. You can always see Gastown anywhere in the game from the plume of smoke rising above it. You originally find him in an overturned tanker out in the area known as the Outer Graves. Yeah, this is his hideout right here. In fact, I'll just fast travel there real quick to just give you a look at it. It's the tutorial zone, the Outer Graves is, and that's really where you get to start out, where you learn the mechanics of the game and everything like that. I wonder what he was referring to there. Anyway. So, yeah, he's also got this interesting little religion that leads him to create what he calls archangels, which are just variations on the Magnum Opus, where so long as you've got the parts, you can build these cars. Some of them take all the way to the end of the game before you can actually build them. Okay, so then the other characters. So I'll just open up the map real quick. Jeet, Gut Gash, Pink Eye, Deep Frya, and then of course Scabrous Scrotus and Stank Gum, who both live up there. Deep Frya, I'll start up with him just because I'm closest to it. He has a temple that has where they worship fire, it seems like. they've got a big old torch at the top of it that's supposed to incinerate their followers. See, the funny thing is with that, he's not actually a bad guy. Pink Eye is it's a it's an older woman. She's sitting around in a wheelchair, but she's a very feisty lady. She uh, she occupies what looks to be an old cooling tower for a power plant or some sort of industrial plant. Um, let's see. Gutgash occupies a ship called the Parch Moon, which the region here is named for. He preaches to his people that the water gods will someday bring the seas back, and that's why they're fixing up that ship out there. So I'll travel to the ship real quick just to give you a view of that. There's Scabrous Scrotus there in the loading screen. Nasty, nasty guy.
Did you tell him the waters would come back?
Now, this is one of the side quests real quick. I am going to spoil this because I think it's hilarious. You have to go get this basically as a religious icon for the ship. It's an old seafood restaurant sign that's washed down into a storm drain. Alright, now there's the Parch Moon. The ship is broken in half. And I get the feeling that Gutgash doesn't really believe what he's saying.
You could always do a death run. Crodazzle's not far.
Crodazzle, I'll get into him in just a minute if you saw what Chum was just saying there, but I don't believe that Gutgash actually believes that the water's coming back. He's just telling his followers that because it's a way to get them to work on the ship to improve the ship's defenses so that they're ready to go if ever an enemy comes by to try to take what they have. And then Jeet, he's the last of the leaders. He occupies a lighthouse over here. He's one of those guys where it's like genius and madness are two sides of the same coin. He's a very smart guy, but he's he's got kind of a redneck accent sort of thing, and he's also shoving metal shards into the area between the skin and his skull on his head in order to keep himself sane. So he controls this area of the Eastern Great White, while Gutgash controls the Western Great White. Pink Eye controls the Dead Barrens. The dump is controlled ostensibly by Scabrous Scrotus and Stank Gum, but it's also Deep Fry's territory. And over here in the Dunes region, this is controlled by the Buzzards, which is one of the three gangs. Just to tell you the other two, they're the War Boys, which are directly controlled by Scabrous Scrotus, and then there's also the Roadkill, which, to be honest, I don't remember who controls them, or if they're freewheeling, or if they're just under Scabrous' control, just a different faction. The Buzzards seem like feral people, really, but at the end of the day, they upgrade their vehicles with all these really nasty spikes on them. They only come out at night. They wear gas masks that have these red, creepy-looking goggles in them, and it really makes for some crazy combat over here in the Dunes region. Now, Crodazzle, not a leader, but he runs the races in the area, and I'll go over to one of these racing grounds just to give you a taste for both the racing and to give you a glimpse. Oh, there's Stank Gum. Like I said, he's got another face sewn onto his face. Creepy, creepy guy. Alright, so this up here is Crodazzle.
Be welcome. My tracks have been so quiet of late. Come stir the dust.
Now there are two different types of races here. This one's like a leaderboard sort of thing. I haven't really done any of those. I've really just been doing these barrel bash ones, and there's also like a time bomb one and stuff like that. I apologize for any noise you might hear in the background. Unfortunately, I don't have a completely quiet place to record these sorts of things, and my washer is in the background. If you occasionally hear that. Now, with any of these races, if you finish within a certain time limit, you get a Griffa token, which it's something I think I actually missed going over. Griffa tokens are what you use to upgrade Max's traits. And you go and you see the Nomad Seer Griffa, and he will Actually, I think I did talk about Griffa, but I didn't talk about the traits, and the traits will improve just different qualities about Max. I'll open that up real quick. Thanks, Crowdazzle. Where is that? Is that in here? No. I don't know where to find that. So, let's see. I'll go back up here and start a race. Barrel bash. And I'll just go here with... Let's do... Killbox. Alright. Okay. So here I am with the Opus in one of its many Archangel configurations. Able to boost. Able to do damage to the other cars if I want to. But I don't think it'll be necessary. Now in the Barrel Bash you have to go through the line of barrels. If you miss any one of those checkpoints, you cannot complete the race. It'll automatically fail you, no matter how far ahead of the competition you are. But yeah, it doesn't look like I'm going to have any trouble with it this time. This race seems to be going over to Jeet's headquarters, which all the races run to the local headquarters of the faction. So in one of the other race types, you've actually got the enemy cars just constantly ramming you. They have no interest in running all the way to the finish line. It's entirely up to you to get there, and they will constantly be showing up to try to give you hell. I do like the way that they marked the road with red. They also mark the road with black when you're in a convoy's path. Basically, the convoy constantly carrying crude oil, constantly leaking crude oil. Well, it ends up making it so that the road is black. Now, convoys are they're a very... I enjoy taking them down quite a bit. Just because it's all car combat, which the car combat is unique to this game. Again, you've got it in things like Rage, but it's not really the same sort of quality as it is in this. And what the heck? Anyway, the hand-to-hand combat, like I've said, can get kind of repetitive. I haven't really had that be the case with the car combat. Well, it is repetitive, but it's something I still enjoy doing, even though it is repetitive. Anyway, you see there I didn't manage to finish in time to get the Griffith token, but it's not like I need it anyway. I've already fully upgraded all the stats. And that's the good thing here, too. It automatically allows you to revert the car back to its original setup. Alright, so now that you've seen that race, I'm going to start to just reiterate some of the things I talked about before. Like, you like open world games? Then this is the sort of game that you'll like. Do you like car combat? Especially when it's been very well fleshed out? This is the kind of game you'll like. If you like, uh-oh.
Go for shelter.
Yep. If you like Arkham style combat and melee combat, this is the sort of game you'll like. That was a buzzard car back there. And if you like the sort of post-apocalyptic aesthetics of this world, then this is the sort of game you'll like. So, I will say that towards the end of this game, I was kind of forcing my way through it because it has been so long, or had been so long really, since I finished a game. And I felt really just the need to really get one done, do it all the way through, even the secondary content. So it's not really even on them that I was forcing myself to do that secondary content, because that's entirely up to me. I didn't even really want to do this stuff, but I was forcing myself to do it. And it could be that there are people out there that want to do all that fine little scrap camps and stuff. Now, you'll get a glimpse of what it's like to be caught in one of these storms here. There we go. These are excellent opportunities to get scrap. Well, it can also be extremely dangerous. It's also one of the more interesting activities to do is to hunt down scrap in the storm. Well, I wouldn't really say interesting, but nerve-wracking, I guess would be the way to put it. You constantly got lightning bolts coming down all over the place, scrap flying. If you get out of your car, it's pretty likely you're going to die. Well, would I recommend the game? Yes, I would. And I picked it up during a sale back in September just to show you how long ago it was that I actually bought this compared to when I actually played through it, which was just a week ago or so. And you can pick it up now on Steam for 20 bucks, or you could wait for it to go on sale sometime this summer. But if you like the car combat, open world, Batman Arkham style melee combat, and just the aesthetics, then this is the sort of game that you'll like. So I'm gonna hide in Jeet's stronghold. So
We live yet.
I'm the Loot Cartographer. If you enjoyed this video or if you hated this video, then I encourage you to either click the like or dislike button respectively. And I'm going to keep adding more videos all the time, so if you'd like to see these things when I first put them up, be sure to subscribe, and you'll get a notification. Thanks, and I hope to see everybody again.